because of this threat of AI and the threat of AI. But the beginning of this movie, that's where I was. By the end of it, a very different place. Hey everybody!
Hi!
This is MaJeliv. We're the Vasquez family. I'm Matthew.
I'm Jemi.
And I'm Jenny.
We just got out of watching Gareth Edwards, the creator, and wow, I mean,
So much to think about.
It was quite the spectacle.
Yes.
Gareth Edwards is the director of Rogue One and 2014's Godzilla. Those are the movies we've seen of his. We know he has some other ones there too, but that's where we're familiar with his work, and so we were very excited to jump into this movie based on just that, of being fans of his work in the past, as well as just kind of hearing the buzz about how this movie was filmed, what they used, how they used the Sony FX3. There's just a lot of talk about this movie, especially with AI and the growth and evolution of AI right now and some of the themes that are in there. So we went into this movie very excited. This will be our out-of-theater review. We just got out of the theaters watching it. It was kind of loud outside of the theater, so we decided to just come home and not sit on the regular blue couch like our other videos, but to kind of do something in the theme of the movie. Yeah, change it up. But yeah, Jem, so what stood out to you immediately after watching that movie?
So first of all, with the acting performances, the actress, I believe her name is Madeline. She plays Alfie in the movie. She did fantastic. Like, I felt emotionally engaged the whole time, which is very rare for me too, because I struggle to open up and actually allow myself to feel emotions during a film when it's emotional and heavy. And this was definitely a heavier film, although I kind of should have expected that. But it's, you know, the stakes were really high, and it was like, wow, it feels like a very hyperbolized version of like what things could possibly be if it's not done right. So it was kind of haunting too, not gonna lie. It felt it was tragic, yet there was some lighthearted moments, very small glimpses. It was a cautionary tale, but overall just a really great story that had a lot of deep poetic themes. But definitely a shout out to the acting. The acting was amazing. For this to be Madeline's first really
was her first
thing,
movie, right?
Her first movie, yeah.
That's wild.
I'm like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. So just so happy for her, because it's such a wonderful role.
Yeah, sensational. Now, Mom, I know sci-fi is quite the genre for you. You either, I think, really love it, or you know, sci-fi is kind of hard. It's like, I don't know. So how did this movie hit you, impact you? What stood out to you? Did it not?
This movie it really captivated me. It really engaged me. The story was very like Jemi expressed. It just makes you think. It makes you feel a lot of things. It makes you reflect on different things. I think I'm still processing the movie, but it was very poetic, very artistic, very, very beautifully done. It kind of stays with you for a while, and it also, I think, speaks to different people differently. Like, I think anyone who watches it receives different elements of it. So it was a beautiful film. That's the word I could think of, is like beautiful, like the way it was done. Very impressive as well. So yeah, as far as sci-fi, I really, really loved it. I mean, and even not if it wasn't sci-fi, I just love it as a film. So
Yeah.
Well, there was such a groundedness to it.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Rogue One. I think that's why I also loved Rogue One. I don't know, the way it was all directed and filmed, even though it was a Star Wars movie, it still felt like, whoa, this is new. Like, what is this? This is so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the AI felt so real, realistic. And I know that's kind of funny to say because it's AI, but it didn't take me out of the story. And I think that's what sci-fi sometimes does for me, is it takes me out of what's happening. But this one did such a great job at grounding it all that I really felt like I was in a real story, as if it was happening outside. You know, it was just that grounded, and that, it wasn't like these shiny metallic, robots like Terminator. It was very, I don't know. It just felt like we were among AI, and we were kind of living among and fighting with, and I don't know. It was
More grounded. Yeah, I think my mom's really hitting on something, which is that I think for something, I was talking to Josh about this, and by the way, Josh and my dad will get on here soon to kind of give their thoughts, dive deeper into symbolism, themes, parallels, music, all the more philosophical, deep stuff. So just stay tuned for that. But to add on to what you're saying, Mom, I agree. I think even though this movie had a bunch of scale, massive scale, I mean, we're talking, this movie is visually stunning.
So
Yeah,
stunning.
visually stunning. It's one of those movies that just by watching and looking, you're inspired. You know, you're inspired to it was just so unique. And I mean, we've kind of seen AI before with things like Terminator and all that, but Gareth Edwards really got to bring his vision to life. You have some elements of like the Vietnam War, and you have those movies that we've seen before, and then obviously not movies, actual history, and you look at photography and you look at these things, and I mean this was shot in Thailand, so there's a lot of I did hear an interview about that, about kind of bridging both gaps between the real world, very much real, and then adding in all that VFX later. So they really were able to, although it was such a massive scope of a story, really able to ground it. And I think maybe shooting with something like the Sony FX3 is what makes it so much more grounded. Even some of the way that the camera was held, and there was a beautiful shot like on a ship where just a robot sitting and you see mountains in the back, and it just, you felt like you were sitting there next to him. And so again, it was ironic because in a movie about humans versus AI or something like that, there was still a certain humanity there. So it's strange. I think that's what I'm still trying to grasp onto. Mom is like, I don't know. It's just I'm still trying to grasp what exactly we just experienced. But it's all great. And so we'll be having conversations about it for sure. And yeah, so we're gonna pass it over now to my brother and my dad, and they're gonna dive more into specifically maybe some characters that stood out to them, why, story elements, the music, and then themes, and then we will close it out once they're done.
We're gonna get to the philosophical, thematic stuff. I wanted to ask you about music because you had a moment during the credits.
I think you can find this. Hans Zimmer did the music. I didn't know that, and if you've heard his work before, it's amazing. And the whole time I was like, oh man, the composer really knew what they were doing, very experienced. I wonder who. And then I was like, in the credits, Hans Zimmer, and I was like, and then I looked over to Matthew, and he knew, so he didn't tell me. So that was
well, you weren't alone. I didn't know either. I didn't know it was Hans Zimmer either.
But I had a feeling. I did have a feeling because of the way that the timing was, and the way that it really helped the story, and the selection of where they played the music really helped elevate what was going on. So music-wise, I mean, I cannot wait for the soundtrack to come out because I absolutely loved the music. So that was there for sure.
Yeah, for me, I can only tell especially on a first screening, I could tell when the music is good because I can't tell the music's there. It's just it's intertwined with the life of whatever I'm watching, and that was the case here. I think I became aware of the music and how wonderful it was. This is not a spoiler, but you've seen it in the trailer. There's this like blue laser that kind of scans the land. That was such a unique sound. I was like, I've never heard anything like that before. And it was haunting and robotic, and yet it breathed. It was distorting, and it affected my senses in a way where I felt like what the characters were going through in those moments. So it was terrifying, but it never crossed my mind that it could be Hans Zimmer, but it fits.
Yeah.
There were times where I felt like I was watching a Nolan film, in its capacity to have this grand visual scope.
Yeah.
Right. So cinematography, the lighting of it was absolutely exceptional. It had a signature feel of. It felt at times where we were watching a Star Wars film, like a good Rogue One or Andor, where it's Star Wars because we know it's supposed to be, but it didn't feel like Star Wars because it's something more intimate within that universe. Yeah. So cinematically, I don't know how you felt, but that's really kind of where I was struck. It was sci-fi, but it was so well embedded. It reminded me of District 19. I don't think you haven't seen it yet because when it came out, you were very, very little, and a lot of heavy themes. But eventually, you'll see District 19. It reminded me of that as well. Anything else stand out to you?
I mean, I think one thing that really stood out to me was I'm not sure, because there's usually to sci-fi films this wow factor of like, I don't even know how they did that, or the scale of the threat and what is going on, but it was such a grounded threat, which was war. I think that's something that we all understand. There's no like, oh, we have to pretend that there's an alien out there, and which is very possible, but anyways, it's a threat that we all understand. It's a threat that we can all care against, that is terrible. It's death, and it's conflict that we face in the world today. So that very much so grounds all of it. Even though it's sci-fi, it still is a war, and we understand what that is. So that was definitely there, and the ability to connect was because of that. I think because it's something we understand.
Yeah, it made it very human.
Yeah.
It was a conflict that, although it has these very sci-fi elements, it felt so human. And it indeed, I think Matthew was talking about this earlier, and this kind of takes us into the thematics of this film. You know, you have elements that tie us to Genesis, perhaps, in the Bible. Obviously, the title is The Creator, so I know I couldn't help but contemplate of our connection to the great Creator and what through us can be made that is good and what through us can be made that is evil. What does human cowardice do to creation itself? You know, we're created to create, and yet we're afraid of what we create because we're giving it this power. There's just a lot to unpack here that I fully intend on unpacking. It's just hard to do it without spoiling the movie for you guys. I will say this, that's something that I think anyone could look forward to, especially, you know, if you have kids that I would say about 13, 14 years old. It's, you know, it's a great, believe it or not, it's a great family film. You've got topics about fatherhood, motherhood, love in general. What would you do for the ones you love? There's all kinds of elements there, and then you have.
I mean, that's a driving force of the whole.
That
film.
is it. That's the core of
For
it.
our main
And so,
character Joshua, which is a biblical reference, Joshua from the Bible. So there's that too.
so fun fact: I had a friend named Joshua Taylor growing up in middle school. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I know a guy named Joshua. He's pretty.
He's a pretty cool guy.
pretty awesome.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's a good piano player.
Oh.
That's about it, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, all jokes aside, I absolutely recommend this movie. You know, it is the eve of my birthday, and I had a really strong feeling I needed to see this movie. And this movie reminds me why I love the movies, why I love this art. I think it speaks to humanity. This is a film that should and absolutely could make you sit with it, especially with the things that are going on today, the conversations we're having as a society with AI and our capacity to respect the human dignity and the human worker and all of those things. And then just in general, what about humanity and our responsibility as creative people, an innovative species? What are we doing to our planet? Which, by the way, cameo to Mother Nature in this. Pay attention for that.
Yeah.
Very interesting there, how Mother Nature kind of has a little bit of a say to what the divine is kind of doing to kind of maybe keep things in balance. Yeah. That's a fun thing to look out for. Anything else that we could say? Please help me shut up so I don't give things away.
One thing that I said was about how you could watch this movie, and my mom was hinting at it. You could watch this movie and you could go deep about, you know, into the spiritual, into the emotional, into the themes and all of that. But you could also just watch this movie and enjoy it. You don't have to think too much about it. I know it might cause a stirring, and emotionally it might be like, oh, that was, you know, I felt something. But, you know, and it might affect the way that you live moving forward, you know, how you see the world, how you see AI, but it doesn't involve that much thinking. I think there's a lot of just truth to all of it. And, you know, oftentimes in sci-fi, there's things that are explained, sciences that are dived into, but the world was just so believable, and the way that they show different shots of, and you'll see it in the movie, they really paint the picture of the atmosphere and the world. And so there's no need to, like, show, like, certain things and, like, a wow, like, a, ooh, what's going on? It's just part of the world. And I think that's something that, you know, if it's part of their world and we're following these characters, then we take it in as the world we're experiencing together. And so I think that's very important, that we just ride that ride, not worrying about why something does this. But at the same time, I think all the technology was very believable because of the way that tech is nowadays, especially with the artificial intelligence and the way things are moving. It definitely is something that we can imagine, that we can picture. So it really worked out on that way about the believability of all of it. So
I have to close out with a major kudos to obviously the main two actors, Madeline, the little girl, and then John David Washington. You know, I think for a long time when John David Washington started to make his mark, the media loves to be like, oh, he's Denzel's son, so obviously
he was great in Tenet. I loved that movie.
Yeah, but at the same time, like he has this something very new for me personally that I saw in this performance that I invite you to look out for, especially us dads, the husbands and fathers. You know, it made me. I actually got on my phone to research if he has a kid of his own, because the performance in this film, oh man, it's going to, if you let it, it's going to tug at your soul. And I think he's sensational in this. I really did appreciate his performance. Him and Madeline, as Jemi said, and really the entire cast. But
Yeah.
I can't help but start think about the actors that played the AI robots and the motion capture, perhaps, if that's what it was. It is just extremely impressive how...
It's so cool to look at. It's like, whoa.
Yes.
That is, how are you even living right now? And I think that's a wow factor for sure. It's like, you're alive. That's so strange.
And
so.
I felt a certain way about AI going into this movie. I grew up with Terminator. AI is the bad guy. Even with the actor strike and the writer strike, which thankfully is now over, but the actor strike still looms because of this threat of AI and the threat of AI. But the beginning of this movie, that's where I was. By the end of it, very different place. And that I cannot wait to unpack with all of you.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys get to go see this and we can talk about it a lot and hopefully find a little bit more truth to our own human experience.
Definitely.
Yep.
All right, everybody. So those were our non-spoiler thoughts of our non-spoiler review of The Creator. Definitely, guys, go to the theaters, watch this movie on the biggest screen that you can.
Please do.
It's definitely worth the experience. And we want to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. So make sure to meet us down below what you thought of the characters, the acting, the performances, the visual spectacle of it all. Let us know what you thought down below. We'd love to connect with all of you. Maybe what you thought of some of the supporting characters as well, played by Ken Watanabe, legend. It was so great to see him as an AI, and then Allison Janney as like an amazing like antagonist and just powerhouse, really.
Yeah.
The way you look at her performance, and then Gemma Chan was amazing.
There's so many
as well,
actors
so.
we forgot to mention, guys.
Yeah. It was
Everybody was
just
so
a
in
little
it.
quick shout out. It was
Fantastic
You have to
job,
do
all
that.
of
Thank
you.
you, man.
that's the emotional anchor there. So yeah, definitely worth the experience, and it's just so refreshing, I think, to see. Although this movie does have inspirations from different things we've seen before, it definitely is such a great original experience to take in these days, because we don't get it that often. Although we did see some trailers today that were quite exciting. So anyway, it's exciting times to be movie fans. So anyway, meet us in the comments. Thank you guys for joining us today. If you guys enjoyed this video and you guys want to help support what we do here at MaJeliv, you guys can become a member of this channel by either clicking the link in the description or this card up above to have access to more MaJeliv content, including our uncut watch alongs that we do here on this channel, to episode and movie reactions. And you guys also can become a member by clicking that join icon. So you have two ways, Patreon or YouTube. But regardless of you being here today, it means a lot to us. So thank you. You guys go out there, spread your light, and we'll see you guys in the next MaJeliv video. Have a MaJeliv day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.